Chapter 13. And the dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. He had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on his horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear, and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne, and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was astonished and followed the beast. Men worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast, and they also worshipped the beast and asked,
"Who is like the beast? Who can make war against him?"
The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies, and to exercise his authority for 42 months. He opened his mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. He was given power to make war against the saints and to conquer them, and he was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the book of life belonging to the Lamb that was slain from the creation of the world. He who has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is to go into captivity he will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword he will be killed. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of the saints. Then I saw another beast coming out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, but he spoke like a dragon. He exercised all the authority of the first beast on his behalf, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And he performed great and miraculous signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to earth in full view of men. Because of the signs he was given power to do on behalf of the first beast, he deceived the inhabitants of the earth. He ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. He was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that it could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. He also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. If anyone has insight, let him calculate the number of the beast, for it is man's number. His number is 666.
Creepy. Welcome to this afternoon session of live topic discussed, and that was a reading of Revelation chapter 13, which is what we're going to get into. That really is part of what you'll see in the Omen, which is the Omen series, a movie that we are going to review, and I hope that maybe we'll have a special co-host. I'm looking for my own, maybe Ed McMahon, to join me. We'll see if that happens a little bit later, but and if there's anything else, any other things you want to review or questions that you have, please make some comments and join with me live. So like usual, we're going to have a really good time. And all I have to say is, buckle up, buttercups. Your episode topic discuss. So welcome to the show, to the afternoon show. Everybody kind of get settled and comfortable. Hope that you've had a really excellent Sunday and that you are all relaxed. If you want to text me with questions, let me know, or if you're too scared to watch a show about the Omen review, then go ahead and then don't watch. But it's going to be pretty, family friendly, only because I think that there's just some interesting historical context here that actually created the show The Omen. And I have to just do a little bit of a YouTube search before uh, I kind of have had a busy day, and so I'm not totally prepared. And so I just need to pull up one other thing. Okay, so this whole thing with The Omen really starts out with a book that was written by Hal Lindsey. And I don't know how much time we'll have, or where today's episodes or tonight episode's going to take us. It's going to take a long time. But there was a book written in 1970 by Carla Carlson and Hal Lindsey, that really was a Christian fundamentalist book about the last days. And the book is called The Late Great Planet Earth. Now, I don't know that anyone that's watching or that's part of my audience know anything about that book, but I think if you were a baby boomer growing up, or not growing up, but like you're in your late 20s, early 30s, in the 70s, late 60s, you've seen all of this, tumultuous world where we have President Nixon, who was corrupt. You had the Vietnam War. You had the Flower Power movement, and the earth just seemed to be in this great turmoil. And so there was just this kind of movement toward, which I think is called pre-millennial dispensationalism, that kind of took hold culturally. So this book, The Late Great Planet Earth, was like the best-selling book, I think, of 1970. And it was the first feature. It was first featured on primetime television with Hal Lindsey, and literally was like written into a narrated movie by Orson Welles. And so the reason I'm bringing up this book and why this is important is it really centered on the concept of an antichrist. And the reason I started our podcast out with Revelations 13 is the way the Antichrist is described in chapter 13 of Revelations. If you go back to the beginning of our episode here, you'll see that the description of who the Antichrist is, which you can't really tell in chapter 13. What is the Antichrist? Is it the beast? Is it the dragon? Is there an Antichrist? This book, The Late Great Planet Earth, redesigns the whole concept of who the Antichrist is, that you would never have, that has zero basis in the Bible. And yet, eschatologically, it is super influential in how Christians today think about the Antichrist. So much of what Christians say they know or they think about the Antichrist is not at all supported by the Bible, and yet it is steeped in the culture. And part of the reason it's steeped in that culture is because of the book, The Late Great Planet Earth. And so from that book, there was it definitely had an influence on the culture of the time. And so what that resulted in is a new movie that was developed or written in 1976. So this had meant that the Late Great Planet Earth had already been, out there on the bookshelves, had already influenced some people. And in fact, I would say it even influenced the 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 I wouldn't the authors, or really the not the director, but I think an advertising executive who was influenced by the book. He Robert Munger, Munger. So he didn't actually make the movie, but he helped move it along. He knew Harvey Bernard, who was the producer of the film The Omen. By the way, Harvey Bernard, the producer of The Omen, was also the producer of The Goonies, for those Goonie fans out there, and then another movie from that time. But anyway, so Harvey Bernard was the producer of The Omen and was friends with Robert Munger, and Robert had read and was really kind of into this book, The Late Great Planet Earth, and so as he's kind of working with Harvey Bernard on this concept of for The Omen, they kind of speculated, well, maybe the Antichrist is already here and living on Earth, but has to be born and grow up just like Jesus was born and grew up. So what's fascinating to me about the Omen series is that they literally take this kind of speculative idea from these two men, you know, that has no basis in the book, The Late Great Planet Earth, and has no basis in the book Revelations. And yet they kind of speculate together, well, what if? What if the way the Antichrist is revealed on the earth is the same way Jesus was, in that he was born of a virgin, and is raised, and begins to realize who he is, line upon line, precept on precept. And that's exactly how the Omen series is developed. And I thought that was one of the things that was most interesting to me about, kind of how this was put together. So I have, if I have a co-host, I don't see my co-host, so I'm just going to copy this one more time, see if he can see it, if that's okay. If he can't, if a non-co-host tries to join, I'm not necessarily going to accept you in. But so just think about that for a second when you think about the Omen series, is that it really is the development of this concept of an Antichrist who is born and mirrors the life of Jesus, except is, the antithesis to who Jesus is, which is I had so long since I had seen the movie that when I watched it again, I was like, this is very interesting. And it definitely has fundamentalist Christian, evangelical Christian overtones. And it's definitely premillennial dispensationalism, because you'll notice in the beginning of the movie, the Catholic Church is the church that ends up with this baby. So just like the story of Jesus, the story of Damien is that he is born of a virgin, and uh, and the spoiler, by the way, this is going to be, we're spoiling the whole movie for you because we're going to review it. So if you don't want the movie to be spoiled, go watch it, and then you can come back and watch our review. But what's interesting, the first thing I noticed when I was watching this movie is that this Damien baby, this son of Satan, really, son of Lucifer, which mirrors the son of God. Jesus is the son of the Father. So you have Damien, who's the son of Satan, born of a virgin. You don't really see much about that in this first scene, but what you do see is that the organization that has this baby, that wants him adopted into a rich family, is the Catholic Church. Why is that important? That's because evangelical fundamentalism, or premillennial dispensationalism, sees the Catholic Church as the great whore, as the great abomination, and so so you'll see the Catholic Church as demonized. So without further ado, I'm excited to show you this first scene. I also want you to pay attention in this first scene to to the soundtrack. So this movie in 1976 was pretty obscure. Um, People weren't really sure what it was about. It's scary, but not like if my kids who see scary movies today were to watch this, they would think it was silly. And it is kind of silly. But for those of us, who kind of grew up in the post, like the before we had the internet and before we had a lot of access to these kinds of movies, The Omen did seem pretty ominous and scary because Satan is ominous and scary. But if you look at it from the lens of historical references and premillennial dispensationalists, you'll understand a little bit more, and not it won't feel so scary. Um, and so the soundtrack, so Damien, um, I think it was either the first movie or the second movie, he was nominated. So in the first movie, The Omen, Damien is born and then as a child, similar to Jesus, right, being raised by Mary and Joseph. Um, well, not exactly. You'll see here in a minute. So it's not exactly mirroring Jesus's birth and growing up. So, but it shows him as a kind of a child, and then in Omen 2, it shows him as a teenager. And I think Omen 2's one of the more interesting. I didn't really like Omen 3, and I'll tell you why. Omen 3, he's an adult. Damien's an adult by this time, and you kind of lose some of the mystique. And it is interesting, more so in 1 and 2, to kind of see that this child's pretty innocent and doesn't really know who he really is, but begins learning who he is line upon line, precept upon precept, and kind of goes through this journey to figure out that he is the Antichrist. So uh, I like 1 and 2 a little bit more than the third, but in the first movie, which we're going to review right now, or we're going to look at some different clips, you'll notice in this first clip the Catholic Church is the organization that is basically taking care of and housing, and is the deliverer of the Antichrist. So literally, the Catholic Church delivers the Antichrist to the world. Um, the soundtrack to the movie is very, very. That's probably the scariest part of the movie, is the soundtrack. And this soundtrack won best soundtrack for the Academy Award that year. So and you'll see why. So we'll just jump right into that, and you'll hear the first part of the soundtrack. Let's see if I can pull this up and share a screen. Welcome everybody, and here we go. The Omen, 1976. Okay, so I'm not sure you can hear the sound. I couldn't quite hear the sound, so maybe because I'm not allowed to live stream from Amazon. I hope I can. Okay, so that was the beginning credits. That was the soundtrack, and you and I actually have a YouTube clip of the entire that entire first soundtrack, which is about 2.5 minutes long. That chanting gets more intense, and it is pretty scary. I do want to just go back to a couple of names here. Um, okay, so David Seltzer was the one who wrote The Omen. David Seltzer, so he didn't really connect with that evangelical advertising executive that I mentioned earlier, um, like with the last name is Munger. David Seltzer really wrote he was like the screenplay writer. And I actually give a lot of credit to David Seltzer for the kind of the success of this movie. But what's so interesting is that there are prophecies that are cited throughout this movie, that are not anywhere in the Bible. But evangelical Christians and anyone who's seen this movie to this day believe that what you hear in this movie was actually in the book of Revelations, and none of it was. It sounds like that they're quoting from the book of Revelations, but they're actually just everything that they quote that sounds like it came out of the Bible was written 100% by David Seltzer as part of the screenplay. So, isn't it interesting that like David Seltzer, in a way, influenced like our scriptural knowledge, or culturally influenced the way we think about scripture. And really, it's understandable because the reason he did that is due to the fact that the book of Revelations, specifically chapter 13 of the book of Revelations, is so hard to understand. So the way he screenplayed, the way he did his screenwriting was to basically make up his own scripture that was easy to understand and easy to put into a script. But those words, to this day, many people believe were in the Bible and describe who the Antichrist is. I just want you to know that, and I'll show you which scriptures we're talking about when we get through the movie. Were all written by David Seltzer. None of them are in the book of Revelation. So, in fact, a lot of the misunderstanding about the book of Revelations and what it means and the number 666 um, are falsely attributed to the Bible from this movie. So this movie had a massive like influence on religion, and specifically Christianity, relating to end times. So and I just found that interesting, right? This little cultural phenomenon from a movie that people believe, that is not anywhere in the Bible. So that's David Seltzer. I want to show you then who the and let's see. So that was David Seltzer. Well, the other thing you'll notice is the producer. The producer is the one who had, his advertising executive who influenced him from the book, The Last Great Planet Earth. Oh, and Harvey Stevens is the kid who plays Damien. I could do a whole other episode about Harvey Stevens, um, but he's still alive today. Recently, he was arrested for road rage. Normal kid, but grew up to be just whoever. But I could do a whole nother episode on that guy. You'll also notice the upside down cross. The shadow of Damien the child makes an upside down cross. That idea of an upside down cross as a sign of the Antichrist came from this movie, David Seltzer. So David Seltzer is kind of a scriptorian. Bernhard. So Harvey Bernhard is the producer who really was influenced, but I don't have any evidence that David Shelter actually like wrote the screenplay off of the book The Last Great Planet Earth. And I actually did some research on the late Great Planet Earth, and it'd be a stretch to try to connect these two in terms of a direct screenplay over from that book, but certainly an influence is there, and I think that influence is mostly with the producer we just saw, Bernhard. So I don't know how much my commentary will bother people, but I do have to just go back because what is interesting too that you just need to kind of pay attention to is the very opening scene here. Rome, June 6th at 6 a.m. Okay. So look, one thing that I didn't notice until I did more research here is, um, Jesus is not born, or so Jesus, if you remember Jesus, he was born, obviously to Christians. He was born December 25th. Some would argue it was April, but whatever. It was it was in the Middle East. It was in Israel and Jerusalem. Whereas, so in contrast to Jesus, the Antichrist is born in Rome. And what do we know about Rome? Well, Rome is the seat of the Catholic Church. So again, kind of an anti-Catholic motif here. And the Antichrist is born June 6th at 6 a.m. June is the sixth month. So there you see your first symbolism, 666. This, again, David Shelter's invention.
The child is dead. He breathed for a moment. Then he breathed no more. The child is dead.
So this is a little bit confusing that I just want to clarify here. This is Mr. Thorne, a very powerful, rich ambassador. And what he's hearing in his head is the fact that he was at the embassy. His wife was taken to a Catholic hospital. And you don't see this really. It's kind of confusing. So I'll just preface this. He's So he's at the embassy. He gets a phone call that his wife's had a baby. But and what's weird about this too, guys, and I don't know if this is how it was in the 70s, but the Catholic hospital doesn't tell the mother that her baby was, died at birth. Because back then, I guess when the baby's born, they separated the mom and the baby, and the mom would go and rest. And so I have my co-host calling me through Messenger, and I just want my co-host to know I can't answer. I'm just going to tell him right now I can't answer. he butt dialed me. Okay. So she doesn't know. She's taken to another room, and I think that happened a lot. Those who had babies in the 70s, maybe you can verify that for us. Is that what happened? So in this scene, that's what's happened. She's taken to her own room, and she's waiting to see the baby. She doesn't know her baby died. This man is her husband. He's driving from the embassy, but for some odd reason, he gets the call. Now, Some would say, who've analyzed this movie, that he gets the call and not his wife because they want the Catholic Church want to convince him to take another baby who is motherless, who is in the nursery waiting to be adopted. And that baby that needs to be adopted is Damien. So that's what's happening here. So he's hearing in his head the doctor telling him, "Your baby's dead," but they don't tell the mother that their baby died. What they do though is tell him, and he goes to meet with the doctor, and that's what we're going to see next.
The child is there. The child is there.
I'm afraid it will kill her. My God, she wanted a baby so much. For such a long time. What can I tell her? What will I say?
You could adopt a child.
That Catholic priest who knows full well what's going to happen here, tells the father that their baby is dead, and the father's like, "What are we gonna? What am I going to tell my wife?" And the priest is like, "Well, you don't have to tell her. We have a baby for you to adopt."
She wanted her own.
If I may suggest, it even resembles. Your wife need never know. It would be a blessing to her and to the child.
Now, I don't know, if this was intentional. That it's just implied that the Catholic Church intentionally
None.
has this baby adopted by this powerful ambassador.
The mother died as your own child in the same moment.
Said it could be ours, but
On this night, Mr. Thorne, God has given you a son.
Another hint that the Catholic Church's God is Satan. That's what Christian fundamentalists would say at this time.
here's your boy.
So we're just going to kind of talk through a little bit the next scenes because we're not going to watch the whole movie. I think that's something you could certainly do on your own. But what I want to do next is kind of show what happens in relation to uh, as the baby grows up, as Damien grows up. So I'm just going to skip ahead here to those scenes. Otherwise, it will feel kind of boring. So let's see, a couple of different, one scene that I want to show you, if I can just kind of skip to it. And if I had prepared better, I would have bookmarked some of these, but I didn't know how to do that. So this is where so we're going to now show at Damien's one of his birthday parties. So he's growing up, and we're now enter the scene, Damien, as a toddler.
Go.
Pray.
Or a young child, I should say.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Run out of film?
Just saving a bit for his canonization.
How's that?
I don't know if we just got the heir to the Thorn Millions here or Jesus Christ himself.
You yourself.
Oh, Damien, smile. You big worthless. That's very dirty. Look, smile. Holly! I'll take him, Mum. No, I'll take him. Come on.
So Holly's the nanny. And you'll notice throughout the movie, and it's very subtle, right? They don't really say this, but throughout the movie, there are kind of these apostles of Damien that are, I don't know, inspired by the Satan or whatever to protect Damien, and that typically are his nannies. So you'll see that in this scene.
Let's go.
Put him on the table.
Damien, look at me! I'm over here! Damien, I love you! Look at me, Damien! It's all for you!
So that's where we first start to understand that this is the Antichrist, right? That she does this weird thing for him, right? She kills herself for him. What doesn't make sense about this scene, though, is that she, if she really was an apostle, like an apostate apostle, then she should have probably figured out she probably should have been protecting him instead of like sacrificing herself. But maybe I'm not sure why they show the nanny like that in this particular scene. So that is that's the first nanny, and then we're going to go into a scene where there is a priest that knows something about Damien, especially since this weird suicide of the nanny somehow sparks this, not a Catholic priest, but I think kind of like a Jesuit or something, again from Italy, who wants to warn the senator or this ambassador that his son is the son of Satan. Again, won't make a lot of sense, but these are good scenes.
No, well, there's an article on the suicide. Your nanny, the one that jumped. You say that she left a suicide note, sir.
Not true.
Mr. Ambassador, did you know she was on drugs?
Would you mind?
Mr. Thorne, did she use drugs?
Not that I know of.
Mr. Ambassador, the article said...
I don't care what the article said. Sorry. I am sorry. Will you send me a bill for the damage?
Well, that's all right, Mr. Ambassador. Let's just say you owe me.
So that's a little foreshadowing because that journalist helps the ambassador later in the film. But he also gets decapitated at the end, just so you know.
Yes?
There's a Father Brennan here to see you.
Who?
A priest named Father Brennan from Rome. He says it's a matter of urgent personal business.
Never heard of him.
He says he just needs a minute. Something about a hospital.
Donation time.
All right, send him in.
I didn't know you were such a soft touch.
On that trip to Saudi Arabia, why isn't it the right time?
Oh, it's personal, Tom. I just don't feel like leaving home right now. Yes, Father.
We haven't much time. You must listen to what I have to say.
All right, what is it?
You must accept Christ as your Savior. You must accept him now.
Forgive me, Father. Didn't I understand that you have a matter of some urgent personal business?
You must take communion, drink the blood of Christ, and eat his flesh. For only if he is within you can you defeat the son of the devil.
One
He's
thing
killed once,
that
he'll
I've
kill
noticed
again.
throughout this movie
He'll
too
kill
is
until
they
everything
depict
that's yours is
society
his.
as completely
Only through
secular,
Christ can
as
you
if there
fight him.
are no religious people,
Accept the
or
Lord
that religious
Jesus.
people are the minority,
Drink his blood.
which isn't true. But
I've locked the door, Mr. Thorne.
Yes?
Would you send for a security guard, please?
I beg you, Mr. Thorne, listen to what I have to say.
Ambassador Thorne?
I was at the hospital, Mr. Thorne, the night your son was born. I witnessed the birth.
Sir?
I beg you.
All right. Stand by. What do you want?
To save you, Mr. Thorne, so Christ will forgive me.
What do you know about my son?
Everything.
And what is that?
I saw its mother.
So my wife.
I saw its mother.
You're referring to my wife.
Its mother, Mr. Thorne.
This is blackmail, then come out and say it. What is it that you're trying to say?
His mother was a... Everything all right, sir?
You sounded...
so again, this is a David Seltzer, the screenwriter's invention. And I don't think you can hear this, but I want to rewind it. It was hard for me to hear at first too. But the priest is basically telling him the mother of his child, the real mother, the birth mother. Um, well, let's see what he says. We'll go through it again.
I saw its mother.
So my wife.
I saw its mother.
You're referring to my wife.
Its mother, Mr. Thorne.
This is blackmail, then come out and say it. What is it that you're trying to say?
His mother was a...
So he's saying his mother, its mother, so Damien's mother was a jackal. You know, again, totally a David Seltzer invention. You won't see anything like that. First of all, nowhere in the Bible does it say the Antichrist is the son of Satan. It never says that. It never implies that. The only reason anyone believes, the only place that I can see historically where, like, in our recent times, that, you know, that the Antichrist is somehow born of Satan, is from this movie. So this movie had a pretty big influence. Number one. Number two, its mother was a jackal. So when I was looking at this, I was like, that's weird. Like, so this jackal is in the Catholic Church and gives birth to a human baby, but you hear later that it was his mother was impregnated by a jackal, and that is how Damien. So Damien was conceived by a jackal, and you know a jackal is it's somewhat akin to the movie Rosemary's Baby. So anyone who has seen Rosemary's Baby will know what I'm talking about. It was in the 1960s, late 1960s, like 68, 69, where this couple it lives in an apartment complex with a bunch of crazy people, rich people who belong to a cult. And in this cult, they are looking for a mother who is, you know, who will be willing to conceive or conceive the son of a demon or the son of Satan. So they have a ritual, and she gets impregnated by this demon. Now, whether that, like, it's very, I've seen Rosemary's Baby. It's such a weird show, but when you watch it, you're not really sure what this is that is the father of this child. Clearly a demon, could be a jackal, could be a beast, but it's when I first heard this and I could see kind of these connections, you can see the influence from Rosemary's Baby, a previous film. So they come in and they take the priest away, and we'll go to our next scenes. I want to show you the introduction of this new nanny that comes along.
Come in.
Excuse me.
Yes, Mrs. Thorne.
Mrs. Baylock is here. She says she's the new governess.
Well, that's a start. Show her in.
Come on, please. Ambassador and Mrs. Thorne.
How do you do?
Hello.
I know it's a difficult time for you, so I'll not intrude on your grief. I'm here to take away some of your troubles and anxieties. We'll soon help your little boy to forget what's happened. I'm afraid, sir, that some of our young nannies, they get homesick. They have boyfriend problems. I left all that behind a long time ago. Well, now, if you let me see your boy.
Well, yes, of course. He's upstairs. I'll show you where it is.
Well, why don't you just leave us alone at first? Let us get acquainted in our own way.
Well, he's shy with new people.
Oh, no. Not with me, he won't be.
Well, I don't think...
I think it'll be fine. Go on. Give it a try.
All right, then. Mrs. Horton.
This way, Mrs. Baylock.
I like her.
She seems all right.
Where'd you find her?
Where did I find her?
Yeah.
I didn't find her. I assumed you found her.
Round that corner to the right, and it's the door facing you.
Okay.
I'll have your things sent up in a moment.
Oh, Mrs. Baylock.
Yes, Mom?
I'm sorry, but we're a little bit confused.
Oh, why is that?
Well, we don't know how you got here.
Oh, the agency.
The agency?
Well, yes, they read in the paper about your first nanny, so they sent you another.
Well, that's it.
Well, I'll call to confirm that.
Oh, here are my references.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, if I could see your boy now.
Yes, of course.
Have no fear, little one. I am here to protect thee.
Pretty creepy, right? So that's the nanny. So, there's a couple different scenes that are kind of interesting. There's usually an animal that so Damien seems to scare animals or can control animals. So it's never really consistent, with Damien. He doesn't like to go to church, which my kids feel the same way. But things start to get really rough when they decide to when okay, I've got to the scene. I want to go back to our nanny scene.
Oh!
Pay attention to the soundtrack.
Damien! Damien! No, 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 no!
That's a very famous scene. So he has no emotion about seeing his mother fall. He's scared, but he doesn't really seem to care. So I don't know. That's kind of a creepy scene. Now I want you to know that she doesn't die. And I'm glad that they showed that because I don't think you would just die from that kind of a fall. So we're going to go to the hospital scene where she's in the hospital. Oh, and the other thing that happened here, just so you know, is the reason he wanted to, or Satan, I guess, wanted to cause this accident is because this woman, the mother, is pregnant, but loses the baby through this accident. And, it's because Damien cannot have a brother. And so they wanted the pregnancy terminated. So they made it happen by throwing her off the balcony. Poor thing. So he starts to work with this journalist who starts to kind of figure out what's happening. So I'll show you that.
Day that you were at the rugby match.
Same thing.
Only it's more pronounced this time, and it's actually making contact with the body.
I think this is pretty stupid. He's basically, when he takes a picture, the exposure of the films shows the way these people are going to die.
That's why I started digging. The coroner's report shows that he was riddled with cancer, high on morphine most of the time. Injected himself 2 or 3 times a day.
He knew that he was dying.
Apparently, yes.
He said that he wanted to be forgiven by Christ.
Externally, his body was perfectly normal, except for one small thing in the inside of his right thigh.
What is it?
3 sixes. 666.
Concentration camp?
That's what I thought. The biopsy says it's a birthmark. The best is yet to come.
That was the priest who was trying to warn him.
Pages of the Bible, thousands of them. Every inch of wall space covered, even the windows.
He was part of the Apostles of Satan, again, the Catholic Church.
To be close to his church.
But he wanted to be redeemed, and so that's why he came to warn the priest.
There are 47, I counted them.
Warned this father, Mr.
I think he was
Thorne.
trying to keep something out, don't you? The police thought he was insane, so they didn't mind me coming here and rummaging around to see if I could find anything of use. The first item is a diary. It didn't say anything about him. It's about you. What time you left the house, where you went, what restaurants you had your lunch in, what time your speaking engagements were. The last entry says that he was supposed to have met you in Bishop's Park, and that was dated the day he died. But the really important items are here. If we're to get to the bottom of this, we've got to start here. This first clipping is from the Astrologer's Monthly. Reports an unusual phenomenon. A comet changed its shape into a glowing star like the Star of Bethlehem 2,000 years ago, only this one was on the other side of the world, the European continent, 5 years ago. The 6th of June, to be exact.
At 6
Does
a.m.
that date mean anything to you?
Of course.
Then you recollect this other clipping. It's a birth announcement from a Rome newspaper, also dated the 6th of June, 5 years ago. The day your son was born. 6th month, 6th day. Was your son born at 6 a.m.? Yes, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to work out this birthmark, the 3 sixes.
My son is dead.
666. That's right, Stephen Puff.
I'm raising.
But his real son died.
Mr. Thorne, I'd like to help
He's
you try
raising
and find out.
some child of L.
It's my problem.
So we do more investigation. It is hard to. That's true. I love it. So I'm just going to take you to a later part of the film. Let's see. I'm trying to. Okay, here we go. So here's where they're going to and try to investigate more to figure out like where this all happened in Rome and who the mother of the baby of Damien, the real mother of Damien is. I don't know what that is. Well, I'm actually gonna fast forward it just because that does get a little bit slow. They 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 get led eventually to a graveyard, um, where they find the mother of the baby that died, or the mother of Damien and this man's baby who died. So that's what we're gonna look at next.
Robert, over here. Maria Sciana.
God. June 6th. 5 years ago. Bambino Sciana. Infant boy. Same thing. Mortuum, natum, feacula, completutor. In birth and death, the generations embrace. Is my son married here?
This woman could be the mother of the child you adopted.
Why here? In this terrible place?
So you saw that he read on the tombstone Maria Sciana, which actually it's Latin or Latinized Mary. So remember that Jesus's mother was Mary Magdalene, and Damien's mother is Maria Sciana, which is Latin or Latinized for Mary of the Shadows. So instead of no, not Mary Magdalene. That wasn't Jesus's mother. Mary, the mother of Jesus. I don't know. Go look it up in the Bible. But for Damien's mother, it is Mary of the Shadows. I also want to just say really quickly that I think so she Mary of the Shadow, Maria Sciana, is a jackal, and I don't know. I really don't understand the whole jackal thing. They're canines like dogs or wolves. So I'm not really sure what that's about. Rottweilers in this movie are typically used as the protectors of Damien. But again, I don't totally know where the screenwriter came up with jackal, and you can't find that anywhere in the Bible. But that's what they're looking at, the grave of a jackal named Maria Sciana. And I'm having a hard time with this because I'm just trying to think, when so the so what this is really saying is that the Catholic Church had they were the deliverers of this Antichrist, and it's so interesting because that you don't really notice it when you're watching this movie, but when you really like think about how this would have had to have gone down. So a jackal, a wolf, if you will, is impregnated by Satan, and the wolf has a baby, and it's Damien, and this baby ends up in the hospital, a Catholic hospital, and then someone buries the mother, Maria Sciana, who is a jackal, a dog, and also buries this guy's son who really did die at birth. So, again, it just like points the finger at the Catholic Church as being Satan's vehicle to bring about the Antichrist, which again, that's premillennial dispensationalism at its finest. So that's what they're seeing here. Now, for the life of me, and maybe some of you can look at this yourselves, I don't know if you can see it in the screen. I don't know what they're seeing there. Is it an animal? Is it the jackal that they buried there? I don't know.
The other one.
No. Let's get out of here.
If it's an animal too, then maybe my child is alive somewhere. They murdered him as soon as he was born. Murderers. Murderers.
So what this means, ladies and gentlemen, viewers and listeners, is that the Catholic Church knew that this was happening. They had this jackal. I don't know why jackal was used. We have to ask David Seltzer. And they basically helped Satan father his child, the Antichrist. They bury the jackal. I don't know why. And they bury his son. Apparently, they murdered his son so that he would adopt this child. And if you go back to the beginning scene, and you'll see that's what this is all about. It was all intentional to get the Antichrist. So Damien's not happy. Damien's not happy specifically with his mother. His mother's still alive. Now we saw Damien push his mother off the balcony, and now there's his mother again. And listen to what happens here.
Hello?
Hello. Kathy?
Hello, Robert, is that you? Oh, I'm so glad you called.
Kathy, darling. Now listen to me. Very carefully. Do just what I say. I want you to leave London right now.
What do you mean, leave London, darling? I don't understand.
I've put through a call to the embassy. Tom Portman will meet you at the hospital and bring you here to Rome.
Robert, what's happened? What's wrong?
Please, darling, just do it. Get ready to leave.
Oh, Robert, I don't think I can move very well.
Kathy, do it.
Okay. Yes, all right. I'll try to be ready by the time he gets here.
All right, darling.
Remember Damien's nanny. She's an apostate of hell. Not the woman. The woman there was his mother, but you'll see Damien's nanny here in a minute.
Who is that? Is that somebody there? Tom? Is that you?
And I just want to say, Damien tortured this poor woman. So he pushes her off the balcony with his little bike, and it's not really Damien, I guess it's Satan, pushes her off the balcony. But then why didn't he just take care of her the first time? But now then he throws her out the hospital window. But it's really because what Damien wants is the Thorn's fortune, so that he can then grow up to be this Antichrist and rule as a rich king. And so that's kind of what we see happen. So now it's time to go to Rome, or no, actually, we're going to go to Jerusalem, where we really learn about the origins of the Antichrist. So here we go. What really is they're going to do is really talk about the Valley of Megiddo, and you can read about the Valley of Megiddo in the Bible, but not in the way that they depicted in this movie. So it's not really in the Bible, but again, David Sheltzer did a good job as a playwright, making up his own stuff based on the Bible. So this next scene that we're going to see, they go see this archaeologist who seems to have the full understanding of the Antichrist and who he was. And so let's see if I can get to that scene. If you give me a minute here.
Hello, Mr. Thorne. I am Bugenhagen.
What is this place?
The city of Jezreel, town of Megiddo, the place where Christianity began. The little priest, is he dead yet?
Yes.
Come along, Mr. Thorne. We had better get to work. You will excuse us. This is for Mr. Thorne alone. It must be done on hallowed ground. A church. His blood must be spilled on the altar of God. This first knife is most important. It extinguishes physical life and forms the center of the cross. The subsequent placings extinguish spiritual life and should radiate outward like this. This is not a human child. Make no mistake. Is there proof? Oh, yes. He bears a birthmark, a sequence of sixes. So says the Bible to all the apostles of Satan.
He doesn't have it.
He must have it.
I've bathed him. I know every inch of him.
If it is not visible on the body, it will be beneath the hair. Remove it. You must be devoid of pity.
So he has to find in order to, okay, this is also really weird, kind of difficult for me to comprehend. So basically, he is willing to kill his son that he's raised if he finds the mark of the beast. And this is where crazy town comes into play. And so he's basically planning to kill his little boy. But he has to find out first. So I just want you to see this scene where he does go to figure out if he has the mark. And it is kind of crazy here. Because when you look at this little kid, he's really pretty innocent. He doesn't really know he's supposedly the son of Satan. But his father is going to figure out if he has the mark of 666 on his head. So you're right, Stephen Puff. It'd be pretty hard to tell if a birthmark says 666, and then to go from that to deciding to kill your son is quite frightening. That's the nanny. The nanny's trying to save Damien from being killed. So we'll take you to the end here where it all kind of hits a climax. He basically takes Damien to a church where he's going to basically kill him. None of this is in the Bible. All of it is made up by David Sheltzer, but is absolutely influenced Christian fundamentalism throughout, the last 50 years.
Please, Daddy, no. No, Daddy, no.
God, help me. Please! Stop! Stop or I'll fire!
So this is a reason, this is the reason we see a Damien 2, because Damien obviously lives and ends up with with new parents, which we'll see in Damien 2.
To leave your cars right over there.
Oh, I want you to see this scene one more time, sorry. So you'll see who Damien's now with.
Excuse me, Mr. President. When you're ready to leave your cars right over there.
In a moment.
Yes, sir.
It's true. So some person could think this is doctrinal for their own brand of religious belief, like Nephi and Laban, or Abraham and Isaac. And the truth is, many evangelicals, today, have really been influenced by this whole concept, and it has influenced their religious ideas. So you'll notice at the very end of that clip, what's most interesting to me is that Damien is adopted by the President of the United States. So it's implying, and premillennial dispensationalists, have said this throughout. It just kind of part of their prophecies. It's in the book, The Last Great Planet Earth, which again is a film that you can watch, and narrated by Orson Welles, where basically the Antichrist infiltrates the world governments, and could infiltrate the wrong president. So it's implying that the president of the United States is going to raise up the Antichrist, and so that's kind of what we're seeing. That's kind of what we see with this movie. I thought about reviewing Omen 2. I'm a little bit not sure that that's what I want to do. I'm a little bit tired, and it's been a long day. We've had 2 shows. You can go watch The Omen 2. Now I feel like I need to show a little bit. Here we go. I can't help it. I do want to say this. In 2006, and I haven't seen this, Omen 2, or the first Omen was redone. And I'm interested in seeing it. I haven't seen it, but David Sheltzer, the original screenwriter for The Omen, did the remake in 2006. And for those who are Mia Farrow fans, Mia Farrow is in that movie. So that's something that I do want to watch. But here is Omen 2. Just can't help it. I want to take you through the scene here. So what this scene is so I think I lost the Facebook stream, but if you go to YouTube, you can watch. Oh, I guess it says we've lost me on YouTube too. Well, if we've lost the stream, then I don't know then who's still watching. I see someone watching from two people from YouTube and one from Twitch. So we will end the broadcast. Basically, it's just showing us. Oh, I think I know why it's a violation, because I'm actually didn't buy this movie, and you need to buy it. So we'll just stop the screen share, and I think we will just say goodbye to all of you and ending the broadcast. Thank you all, and hope that you join us next time for another episode of Topic Discuss.